wagon was was not a wagon. This wagon was hell, torture that anybody could ever imagine. Horrible. You put in 600 people in one place without food, without air, without water. And when we got to Auschwitz, maybe there were left 300 or 200. The rest were died because they stampeded out. We got to Auschwitz. This is the point that I want to elaborate on it. We got to Auschwitz. My mother and my father and my two uncles, it was a miracle we survived. What happened in Auschwitz? Auschwitz, I never knew that until I came in 2005 with my family to Auschwitz and to show them where we were. They divided the men and the women separately. And once the women were divided, they had a system that Dr. Mengele, the angel of death, the biggest, horrible, mean, and there are no words to describe. He has a mean. To the right, you were allowed to stay. To the left, you went after the selection. You went directly to the crematorium. A crematorium is a place that they are burning people. Sometimes they burn people that were not completely dead. My mother and me went through the tattooing that I showed you before, that I got the number 88987. That was my new name. Hanna Kleiner did not exist anymore. Kleiner was my name from home. She did not exist. There was a number. The Germans had a system that more they humiliated us, the more they took our humanity away by giving us a number instead of a name, just like giving to a horse or to a cow a number. We were in the same category, but the horse and the cow were in a better situation than we, because they were not slaughtered and tormented than we. We went to the barrack. No, we went first from where we went from the selection that they chose us. We went to a big, long room. And when you came into that room, it was like 4 or 5 barracks together. On one side, there was a row of women that were wearing white coats that we should believe that they were nurses or something similar to that, and we got tattooed. The tattooing was done like a hammer without mercy on everybody. My tattooing and my mother tattooing was swollen, and I had high fever, and the only thing that my mother could do was tear a piece of a dress. The cloth was gray in stripes, and she took a piece and tore it off and made it as a bandage with cold water and love and kindness. My mother was a very, very special human being, not because she was my mother. Her parents and my in-laws put on her a guilt trip. The Jewish people are very good in doing this to their children. And they told her, Ruja, you have to take care of Hanale. She is the future of our people. She will be able to tell what happened. You have to take care. And what did Ruja do? She took care of us of me from day one. She left the ghetto, that if she would have been caught, she left the ghetto by herself to get to somebody to falsify the letters. Our name was Kleiner, and we got Polish names, that was Kozlowski. My mother could only do it because she looked like a Gentile woman. She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and very fair skin. She matched the she matched the description of a non-Jewish woman, and because of her and in her, in Hebrew you say zchut, in her honor, she saved me. And my grandparents were smart enough to say that she has to save me because I am the continuation of the new generation. And you young people, that I can't see you, but I hope you hear me. You are our future. You are our generation that has to bring this country, that is a fantastic country, a people loving country. That to remember this woman with an accent, she spoke and she told, it should never, ever, ever happen again. That's very, very important. And please don't forget the request. It's hard to me for me to talk about it, but I'm asking for a little favor. Just repeat the story to somebody else, because what I saw today from the Holocaust survivors is a very, very sad picture. It's a dying generation. Very few, I and another lady were the youngsters. So you can imagine there was there a few 93, 91 people, but it showed on those people that they are at the end of the road. And it was very sad for me to watch it because I am the next in line. So please, children or grown ups, don't ever forget what I was telling you. It's very important. It shouldn't appear itself like we are having in Europe now with Russia, with Ukraine. It's heartbreaking. So I was in the barrack that they gave out the tattoos. From there, we were asked or told or ordered to go to the barrack that was our new house. We came in, we saw the number 18, and my mother got all excited. And she says, Hanna, you see, we are going to survive. It's number 18. I did not know what number 18, but she explained it to me. And since then, I'm a firm believer. And whenever I had a problem, I immigrated to America, and my mother was in Israel. Whenever I had a question regarding Auschwitz, I was a child. I remembered much less than she did. I called her, and she always put me at my ease and told me what is happening and why it's happening. But this thing, it disappeared, but I'm still very grateful that I had her till she was 94. From the barrack, we got, I'm sure you saw once any picture, it was like a bed from wood, and it was like a bed from upstairs and downstairs. No cover, no nothing. The people left at 5 o'clock in the morning to work. My mother left. I was left all alone in the big barrack. Nobody was there. No television, no friend, no nothing. When they left, I was sitting on my bed, on the thing that was called a bed. And suddenly, the first day that I was there after they left, all the mice and the rat came out. The rats were big and fat, I don't know from what, and the rat and the mice were big too. And I got very scared because it looked like they're going to attack me. But time passed by. They were my entertainment. I watched them. They never touched me. Maybe I was too skinny for them, but it was a scene that cannot be redoubled because it was unbelievably scary to see this little girl with all the mice and rat about her. I waited every single day with fear and anxiousness to wait for my mother to come back. Thank God my mother came back. And when she came back, I was in heaven and we had to go to get some food. The food was water with rotten bread, with rotten tomatoes, with rotten apples, with anything, but it was all rotten. But the people in the barrack was extremely generous and thoughtful. And those feelings don't happen in Auschwitz. It was an exception. They let me and my mother to go first to take the food from the cattle. Why? Because when you were first, there was no more substance. Otherwise, everything was like water. And we were very grateful. Each time my mother came back, I did not know whom to thank, but I was the happiest child in the world. My mother in Auschwitz snuck out every single night from the barrack to go to a friend that worked in the kitchen. And this friend used to steal and hide some little food for me. And each time my mother left, I was hysterical, crying, please don't go because you might not come back. And she said very peacefully to me, Hanna, if I don't go, you will die from hunger. I go, I might save you from hunger by bringing a little bit of food. She was right, but I, at the age of 5 or 6, did not understand it and didn't want to hear it. I said, I'm scared you are leaving me alone. And this fear of being left alone, it exists until today in my brains. Because being alone is for me a punishment. But thank God I'm alone in my house. I have somebody that comes in. Thank God for that. This was one scenario. We went, I'm going to have a few ones. This was the food and the being alone. Some days we were allowed to go out from the barrack and go for a walk. My mother took me for a walk and then we passed the crematorium. The crematorium where the ovens, where the gas, the juice, and then they burned them. And the smell was unbelievable bad. And I said, Mommy, why does it smell so bad? So she wanted to save me. Actually, she never lied to me. She always treated me like a grown up, and whatever she said was reality. But she tried this time. She said, Hanale, they are burning here rubber. Don't worry. Some women, I would call them yentes, they came to my mother, they heard her. How are you lying to her? They are burning Jews. They are burning us. So my mother looked at me and she says, Hanale, they are right. I lied to you, but I did not succeed. I'm sorry that I lied to you. My mother didn't lie to me. She treated me in Auschwitz and during the war just like a grown up. I have pretensions to Hitler. They took away not only 3/4 of my family, they took away my childhood because I was never a child. Because when you are exposed in your childhood with so such torture and such inhumanity behavior, you become a grown up. I remember when it was the 9/11, my students came in class and became and talked like grown ups because suddenly reality set in. So, you young people and old people, please enjoy and let people enjoy the childhood because it's very painful when your childhood is taken away and your genes are messed up, and not only yours but your children and your grandchildren. So Hitler really cannot be ever forgiven and forgotten what he did to three. I think they will find out that it's a four generation, such a terrible things that we are not the same. But one thing is in our favor. We are resilient. We, I mean the Holocaust survivors. We start light from new. We do anything that we can. Therefore, you children, if we can do it, you can do it. And don't ever forget about it. You can overcome any obstacle that you have in life when you put your mind to it. Remember, hearing this, there is no way that you cannot overcome something. You try hard enough and you can do it. The other episode in Auschwitz, what happened, my mother had on this finger an infection. She suffered for a while, and then one day it was bitter cold and raining. She said, Hanale, you stay in the barrack. I want to go to take care of my wound. I said, wonderful, I'm coming with you. No, don't. I said, Mom, I listen to you. You listen to me. I'm coming with you. We went to the infirmary. At the infirmary were sitting 2 or 3 German women that were working for the Germans. And there were also Jewish women. But they were put there because to show them that even that they are good, they are going to be killed to what with all the others. My mother showed the finger to the woman and she looked at her and she says, I can only chop it off. I cannot do anything to it else. My mother stood there with a smile on her face and he said, okay, but wait a second. She said, Hanale, could you go outside and wait? Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't go outside. I said, Mom, I'm staying with you and holding your hand. When this happened, she gave her the hand. They chopped off the finger without any mercy. And my mother looked at me with a smile. You see, it didn't hurt. She was white as a ghost. And the pain must have been unbelievable. But she showed me that it doesn't hurt and I shouldn't be scared. I don't remember how I felt at that time. But each time I looked at the finger and the finger was not allowed to be touched by me or anybody else. The only time that I touched her finger was when she was on her death's bed. I never touched it. She always jittered when anybody came close to it. This was an occurrence that anybody that had a heart in him would say, oh my God, that's terrible. You see, children or grown up, I'm here, I'm talking, I'm halfway normal. I do a lot of things, whatever I can, to overcome and I do anything to help others, because where there is a will, there is a way. Don't ever forget that sentence. Then
Hanna,
there was
Hanna, I'm just going to introduce asking our listeners if they would like to put something in the chat room while you're speaking, and I'm going to look at them, and please continue. We're all very, very, very engaged in your story, but I just want to remind our listeners that they can put some questions in the chat room. Please.
How much more time do I have left?
I would like to let you know that we would love to hear more of your story for 10 more minutes, please. And we'd like to have some time to answer your
Do
questions.
you have later time for questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. So there was one day an announcement that in Barrack 18 is Dr. Mengele coming for an inspection. What does the inspection entail? Just at the beginning, I told you, to the right, you can stay and work. To the left, you had to go, and you were the next victim to be burned in the crematorium. Mr. Mengele, it was morning. This I can see with my own eyes. It was raining and it was cold, but the order was that all the women that were in Barrack 18 have to be naked until he comes, and when he comes, to be inspected by him. It took 3 or 4 hours, but my mother had an idea that in order him not to see me, I was hidden between the legs of the women that were standing in a circle. When Dr. Mengele, the angel of death, came, and he came to my mom and he touched her and he said, I am not sending you yet to the crematorium because your skin is clean and you still can work. But I come back and I'm sure I will be able to send you. Not that he was not able, he just needed people that still can work. Can you imagine? I cannot imagine it today. When my mother's finger was chopped off, when Mengele touched her and said he's coming back. Can you imagine that little girl that stood there, how much fear and how much anxiety she had, that her mother was not her mother, but she was her angel that protected her. I was extremely, extremely connected to my mother. When I got married and left Israel with my husband, I had such a guilt. Why did I leave them behind? But they were very happy for me because America is alive, the land that loves strangers and protects strangers. Except when you are a Jew, then the anti-Semitism lately regrows and comes alive. But this hopefully will also pass. Let people see what the Russian doing to the other people and how cruel they are. Maybe the anti-Semitism will go a little bit less. This was Auschwitz with my occurrences. Auschwitz in 2005, I came with my husband, my children, and my grandchildren to Auschwitz to show them what is going on and how it went on. Auschwitz was a very, very, very big camp. Auschwitz was the biggest camp out. There were 17 camps in Europe that were out to eliminate the Jewish race. Auschwitz was the most developed and the most active one and most productive one in chewing, in killing the Jews. So I had the honor to be in that camp. We looked around. It was so big because when I came back with my family, it was very big. I didn't remember it like that. And my mother, when I had a question, I called up and asked. In 1945, the Russian, the French, the American, the English won the war and we were free. We were free and we left Auschwitz. Before we left Auschwitz, it was one day that my mother looked up and saw all these stations where the German soldiers were looking on us from the, everything was empty. While it was empty, my mother looked at me and she said, Hanna, let's get out of here. We took ourselves, nothing to take, and we ran until we came to the exit and the electricity was not anymore on. We did not touch the barbed wire that was electrical, but we went through it and we were very, very scared. We went, and when we ran out, we heard the Russian screaming, Jevuchki, Jevuchki. What does it mean? Girls, girls. And they had all the intention to harm us and to be horrible to us. Me and my mother were lucky. We fell into a hole and we stayed in that hole in the middle of the field and until 2-3 days when it was quiet. Then we went out and went to the main street and somebody drove by and one of the Polish people took us in a car and he took us to Krakow. In Krakow, we met the lady that helped my mother with food and she was on the street. And this is like a coincidence from God. She came to my mother and she said, Ruja, don't worry, you can come and stay with me. She gave us half a room with a bed and we stayed there. My father, meanwhile, was released in Dachau, that's in Germany, and he survived with 2 brothers, and he was afraid to come to Poland because he didn't want that he should be disappointed that we are not living. One day somebody, and he decided as long as he lives, he's going to sit at a train station and maybe somebody will come down because this was a connection, Poland and Germany, that the Jews were waiting to hear from one another. And one of the days, a gentleman from the same town as my father came down on the station and said, my father, why are you here? Your wife and your daughter survived. They are in Krakow. My father did not want to believe, but he went to Krakow and the gentleman told him a very inaccurate address. My father asked, what street is he on? So she said in Polish, Długa ulica, that means a long street. And this Długa ulica was comparable to a long street like, let's say, Fifth Avenue. So it took my father 3 to 4 weeks to go from apartment to apartment and ask if they saw a woman by the name of Ruja and that she is a non-Jews and her name is Kozlovska. And my father did it day after day until he came in our apartment and rang the bell. When my mother heard his voice, she ran to the door and she fainted, but they were happily united. And since then, they were always together. We lived for a very short time in Germany. From Germany, my parents decided that I will be better off going to Israel and grow up as a free Jewish girl in a Jewish country. And that's the end of the story
Hannah,
regarding Auschwitz.
Hannah, we have so many beautiful comments of those listening, thanking you for your story. We do have so many questions, and one of them is something that I think we all want to know. Is it hard to talk to us about your experience?
I don't have an accurate answer. It is hard, but it is a must. An obligation is much harder than the fear of hurting myself. I don't hurt myself because when I talk, I have a barrier of iron in front of me, and I pay for it weeks later because I did it. But I will never give it up as long as I can do it, because I am here and millions were slaughtered.
If we're not sure if you have a family, if you have children, but could you talk about how your experience?
I wrote a book that is called In Spite of It All. And it's true. It's in spite of it all that you heard a small part of it. Life goes on, and we have to be strong, and we have to be educating, and we have to not be selfish and hide from bad things. We have to fight and overcome. There are so many Jewish people that survived the Holocaust, and they become doctors, lawyers, multimillionaires, doing good things. So where there is a will, there is a way. I hope it answers the question.
I think you answered it beautifully. Did you, one of our questions is, did you ever, as the young child you were, ever start to lose hope? And what did you do after the war?
I never lost hope because I had a mother that was incredible. Whatever happened, she used to say, head up, go on. I didn't do maybe good in school. Don't cry, there is no reason. It's not Auschwitz. You can do it. You will do it. And this is what I'm telling you now, youngsters, you always can do it. Because of this is the reason that I'm talking, because I am interested that the children should learn that if there is a will, there is a way.
Speaking of learning, how did you learn when you were there? Were there any sessions of school for any of the young people?
Are you hallucinating? No, nothing. The only thing that you know in these places is, please God, let me live another day. Was a fear of existence, no education, no nothing. And who would do it? There were places that Jews got together and tried to do it. I was in Auschwitz towards the end, not to my knowledge that anybody did anything.
You spoke briefly about how hard it is to see what's going on in Ukraine now.
Unbelievably. Very, very hard to look at it, and very hard to watch that atrocities come again because of one crazy person. And he is even worse than Hitler, because Hitler at least protected his own army. This one has no mercy about his own people. He lies to his own people. He, I mean Putin.
One of the comments is, thank you so very much for sharing your story. You are so incredibly brave. God bless you with only good things in life. I will be sure to tell your story to others.
I thank the person with the button of my heart, and I do it because I feel it's my duty that people should know never to forget what they did to us. At least today, when we were in concentration camp, when we were running, nobody collected money for us. Nobody gave us anything. At least they are worried and being taken care. Not that it helps them, but it gives them a feeling that they are human and the world is human too. By us, they just threw us like to the dogs.
Another listener writes that your story brings me to tears. My grandma was part of the resistance in Poland. As I'm saying this, I'm getting emotional. Sadly, her dad and sister were killed. Thank you for your story, she writes. And I promise to continue speaking about what happened. It shall never be forgotten.
You should never forget how brave your grandparents were, and you should be happy and proud that you come from such a strong stock, some strong people. They had no way to protect themselves. And I'm proud of you. You should be happy and healthy till 125.
Did your parents ever tell you about how it started before the war or what it was like for Jews before the war?
Yes, they did, but not too much. They were too concentrated and talk about the Holocaust. I was a grandchild of 4 grandparents, the only and the first. I was spoiled rotten, and they loved me to pieces. And then they put me, not they, but Hitler put me in a concentration camp. And I continued, but being spoiled, I spoiled my children, I spoiled my grandchildren. I tried to be a strict mother, that I was reprimanded that I'm too strict. So I'm a very giving and loving and caring grandmother, because once you are spoiled in life, you have it forever, and you should be spoiled. I believe in spoiling children. And if you have a husband, spoil your husband too. It doesn't hurt. He would
Hanna,
love it.
I can't, continue, please.
Oh, it's okay. Go ahead.
I can't thank you enough on behalf of everybody who is listening at Temple Shalom. This is an evening of remembrance and hope, and it belongs to all of you who have come to listen to Hanna tonight, because you are sharing in being the voices of those who cannot speak.
Very good.
Remember, I gave you a homework assignment to close your eyes and be able to recollect in your mind who you're going to pass these testimonies on to, because all of you can be rescuers in our universe. You can all learn from Hanna's account, her testimony, to make this world a far better place by your own upstanding actions. As you take your stand from going from, as we say in Hebrew, Yasha Koach, may you go from your own strength to strength. Your combined presence tonight will enable all of us to promise to remember, to reflect, to listen, so that we can become rescuers for our lifetime. In closing, the only thing that opens our closed mind is understanding and being able to pass on the lessons that we've learned of the Holocaust, and truly committing to believing that the survival of memory lies in our very hands. You all are, in Hebrew, the words are tikva le'atid, hope for our future. Please join me in knowing that I believe those at Shalom will be able to share with you. Hanna has made her email and her her openness to hear from you. And Hanna, is there anything you would like to share in closing to us all?
Yes. First of all, Marjorie, you were fantastic. Thank you so much. You did it with heart and love and understanding, and I thank you very much. The other thing is, whoever heard me, please, if you want to make a donation to the Holocaust Museum in Manhattan, I would be appreciative. If you want to make any kind of donation, it's not obligatory. It's only if you may want and as much as you want. Also to children that suffer from cancer in Israel. It's lately I'm asking for it because there is a need for it. Otherwise, I thank everybody for coming, for listening, and I beg from God, we should never be put to test ever again. We should have a nice Passover, a nice Easter, a nice life, a peaceful, loving God. If you can be nice to one another, it's a beginning of a new world. Just be nice. Don't trust everybody, but be nice and helpful. Maybe the world will change. Kol Tuv, all the best, and Toda Rabah, thank you, and God will be with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hanna, with all our heart. And thank you for making a tremendous, tremendous difference in all of our
I
lives.
hope.
Yasha Koach, beyond words.
All kavod, all my respect.
Thank you.
Thank you, and very nice. You were great, Marjorie.
Well, it was easy to be able to.
It was
conclude
very
with
well
your
done.
Comments. Thank you very,
I
very
think
much.
it's easy.
And thank you,
to try.
Temple Shalom. Yes, Hanna.